Hello, my name is Juan Ferrer. I am the director and founder and curator of the Museo del Hongo. We are so happy for this opportunity of showcasing our work in this year's Ars Electronica Festival. We thought that virtuality was going to be such a hard thing, and we have managed it to create digital artworks. It has been a real challenge for us since we're not digital artists per se, but we are so happy and thankful for this opportunity, Ministerio de las Culturas de Chile and Ars Electronica Festival this year. Today is also joining us Nicolás Oyarce, my partner in crime and the creation of this museum and the foundation. He's working today as a creative director and is presenting a work in this Ars Electronica Festival too, Rotten Bodies. Don't miss it.
Yo siempre digo que todos somos directores en el museo. Y también cómo pensar los museos del futuro. Pensar los museos del futuro, que un museo no tiene por qué tener un espacio físico, un museo puede ser un cuerpo, puede ser un espacio. Cómo lo resignificamos a través del trabajo con el museo. Eso yo creo que es lo más importante. Y la transdisciplina como el futuro.
Well, Ana Rosa Ibáñez is joining us today. She will be moderating with me this roundtable. She is also one of the first person that talked to me about mushrooms and art with the Justicia del Reino Fungi project. And well, she's been directing with me the museums like for about a year already. So thank you, Ana, for moderating with me this roundtable. I love you, honey.
Thank you, honey. Love you too. Thank you for your welcome, and welcome to everyone to the Fungus Garden Manifesto. This year for the Ars Electronica Festival, Museo del Hongo Collective decided to present a series of work under the curatorial concept of the Fungus Garden in the pursuit of collaborating to many other people and projects that are trying to break down the walls between nature and culture, and between the human and the non-human. In the context of the Ars Electronica Garden, in Museo del Hongo, we think it's fundamental that we open the discussion to what is the role of fungi in the ecology of a garden. Fungi are not only key to a garden sustainability, being the main decomposers, the main recyclers, and the main interconnectors of the beings within an ecosystem, but they also provide us with beautiful metaphors about death and the continuous transformation of our own living. A fungus garden explores the possible manifestations of what a fungus garden can be, from the real-life termites and ants fungus gardens to a colorful garden that portrays biodiversity, and also the possibility of our own body as a fertile garden in which other organisms live and participate. For a Fungus Garden Manifesto, we decided to call upon Museo del Hongo's community, that is our own mycelium network, to answer the question to how does a fungus garden look like, or to be more specific, what aspects of the fungi kingdom should we bring into a more sustainable and interconnected future?
Today we have many people from the Museo del Hongo community answering the same question. In the first place, we have Giuliana Furci, one of our godmother, what she likes to be named, of the Museo del Hongo. She's the director and founder of the Fungi Foundation, a pioneering foundation in the conservation and study of mushrooms in Chile.
Camila Marambio is also here today. Camila is a curator and she's known for her work around arts and the environment. And Camila was the motor behind Justice for the Fungi Kingdom, the original project that motivated the creation of Museo del Hongo.
Rodrigo Arteaga, one of The first artist that we got to meet that works with fungi as a material, he made this beautiful map of Chile and of the whole world with different molds in the lab. So he was one of the first inspirations for this museum to be created.
Constanza Güell is also here. She was also part of the project Justice for the Fungi Kingdom. And today she's one of the directors of the Antenna Foundation for the promotion of the arts here in Chile. So it's an honor to have her here today as well.
We have Claudia Müller too, an artist, visual artist that works with water. She has collaborated with us in our last exhibition, Infinita, where she created this pyramid for growing mushrooms inside. Thank you, Claudia, for being here with us today.
Carola Roa is also here. Carola is the mediation director of Museo del Hongo. That is our whole area of education and audience engagement, which we find one of the pillars of the new contemporary art practices, to be able to receive feedback and reach out to the different audiences that participate in our exhibitions and in our activities. And Carola is our own genius for that.
Rosarito Ureta is the Museo del Hongo's graphic designer, and she's made all the beautiful posters that you can see in each exhibition that we make. It's a very important part because the Museo del Hongo integrates not only art and science, but graphic design and visual culture in general. Thank you, Rosarito, for joining us.
JOSÉ BIDEGAIN is also here. He's a performance artist. He's also a designer. José has participated in some of our past apparitions of the museum, presenting performances around different stages or different states in which the fungi kingdom works. He presented a performance for Dormancy for the apparition Vigilantes. And for this apparition, he is presenting Calm number 2, a process of investigation of the mutation of the body. In this occasion, his work is about decomposition. Don't miss it.
We have Sebastián González too. Sebastián was a producer of Museo del Hongo and still collaborates with us. He was a producer for Haifa, the Museo del Hongo's VR experience. So thank you, Sebastián, for joining us today. Hello.
So I would like to ask everyone in this roundtable, what characteristic of the fungi kingdom do you think should manifest in a more sustainable future?
Okay, so what I'd love to be able to see in a fungus garden would be the potential that even one species of fungus has to feed, to heal, and to assist in endeavors, for example, as clothing oneself or starting a fire. And in that case, you know, I'm thinking specifically, for example, of the genus Calvacia. So in a fungus garden, I'd love to see more examples of species like Calvaceas that feed, heal, dress, start fires, and decompose to recompose.
So Rodrigo, what do you think?
Fungi are the great kind of interconnectors between all living beings. So a fungus garden would be full of the diversity, biodiversity of all sorts of animals and humans, non-humans, of all species. They're the great connectors in that sense. And I've been thinking about the notion of Itzofilmogen in Mapuche culture, which expresses the unmeasurable thread of life in which we relate every inhabitant of the territory in the same way. There's no life which is more important than the other. Every life is important. So yeah, and also they're important because to overcome this kind of chauvinism in taxonomy, in biocultural ethics or politics, all sorts of how we haven't been able to even identify or recognize the existence of beings which are more distant perhaps from ourselves as humans. We have been very narcissistic in considering only mammals or vertebrates, or but failed to really recognize the full diversity of life, and the recognition of mushrooms is a fungi. It's I think it conveys all these interests, and it's important to do so. It's vital, because our survival depends on it, and not only of ourselves but of all species on Earth.
So speaking about the kingdoms of life, I would like to invite Camila to be the next one to talk.
So I thought I would talk about kingdom dysphoria, and that's not my own concept, it's Yara Rocha. And they discuss the ways in which, just like gender dysphoria, there is the possibility for us to confuse or be confused by these categories that we've created that try to neatly fit us into boxes. You know, the fungi kingdom doesn't fit into boxes. And there are many other species that also traverse or enter into relations with fungi, but aren't part of the fungi kingdom. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about slime molds. So this here is a slime mold. And slime mold is not a term that elicits excitement in most people, nor does it conjure up images of great beauty, but that's in itself a confusion, because slime molds are maybe the most remarkable organisms I've ever seen, which were once considered part of the animal kingdom and are mostly studied by mycologists. So we find them in books about fungi, but they are also not part of the fungi kingdom. They are mycomycetes and are usually labeled within the protozoa kingdom. They start their life in their first stage as a single cell amoeba, whose definition is found in the Dictionary of Zoology, like I said. So they have this, they exist within the animal kingdom. Then these single cell amoebas combine with another of their kind to form a plasmodium. And plasmodium is defined within the plant kingdom. Within a lifespan, we can move kingdoms. So we could possibly go from being human to being plant to being fungi ourselves. We've limited ourselves by creating these categories of our own genders or of our own species. So this one, I'm going to talk about this particular slime mold, and it is Fuligo septica. Its common name is dog vomit or scrambled egg. It appears on rotting logs like you see here, or on stumps, or on live vegetation during the summer. In an area of Mexico, the plasmodium is fried and eaten by some of the indigenous people who call it caca de luna, moon shit. It's often found in Tasmania. This is where this picture is from. And people there call it snake poo. Its names suggest its relations. Does it come from the inside of a dog? Is it part of the droppings of a snake? Can we eat it? Does it come from the moon? I think it's all of these things at once. It feels to me like these stories and these popular names are maybe more true to its incredible ability to transform than, the scientific placing of it within one kingdom and then confusing and finding out more and moving it into another and creating this sort of dysphoria about where it fits, what it is. I now understand this microscopic being as full of intentionality, full of desires, full of consciousness, and also sometimes iridescent. And this iridescence, which you can find in some of these microscopic mycomycetes or slime molds, is also an aesthetic choice. So Sarah Lloyd has told me that when studying this iridescence, she was looking to see if she could confirm a hypothesis about why it is iridescent. And that would be that all of the tiny sort of crystalline cracks that generate this reflective light on the surface were for the purpose of making it water resistant, so that the water would not be able to seep into the body, but rather that it would somehow constantly have to be displaced and then wouldn't wet the body. But when she was doing her work, she realized that that wasn't the case, that water was seeping into the body, and so that this iridescence has some other function, and she speculates, and I like to join her in that it's an aesthetic function. It has to do with a conscious choice of siding with beauty and the mystery of the effects of beauty. So that is what I want to share for this fungal garden.
Thank you so much, Camila, for that perspective. I think that's exactly what we're saying when we're talking about the divisions between the human and the non-human. To develop further that idea, I would like to invite Carola to be the next one to speak.
Para mí los hongos son un universo que hasta hace muy poquito era desconocido, una parte de la naturaleza invisibilizada, y bueno, me he fascinado con ellos, sobre todo porque nos invitan a ampliar categorías de la realidad, ¿ya? Vivimos en un mundo donde nos hemos entendido a nosotros mismos y a la naturaleza y el entorno en el que vivimos a partir de categorías binarias. Y creo que hoy colapsan esas categorías binarias. No es posible comprender o seguir avanzando hacia un universo más justo para todos, todes, los seres, si no empezamos a cuestionar las categorías binarias a partir de las cuales construimos realidad. En ese sentido, los hongos son maravillosos, son mutantes, son infinitos en su diversidad, en la diversidad, tanto en la cantidad de seres diversos, las formas diversas, como viven, cómo se relacionan con su entorno y cómo se reproducen. Los distintos momentos de su vida tampoco son iguales en todos los seres, y creo que eso nos ayuda a cuestionarnos nuestra base, lo que ha sido nuestra base de la cultura, que es como esta actual abominable forma de entender las cosas como a partir de dos caras de la moneda. Para mí esa es la invitación, creo que es altamente subversiva y amorosa, en el sentido de que también nos invita a revisar el binarismo que reproducimos y plantear un universo posible más allá de esa restricción conceptual binaria. Eso, agradezco a los honguitos.
Fungi has a symbiotic relationship with other organisms, and as they obtain benefits from another organism, they also give benefits to them. So I think that we as a society should also have a symbiotic relationship with nature and give benefits to it as we take benefits from it.
Me encanta. Sí, trabajar con hermandad con el planeta siempre, ¿no? Como un brotherhood with the planet.
Una condición de los hongos que a mí me parece muy admirable y de alguna forma como como un modelo para la subsistencia de las especies, es que primero su red de micelios se encuentra completamente unida y eso hace que sea una especie de familia que está como interconectada, ¿no? De alguna otra forma también algo que me parece muy hermoso es que cuando comienza a crecer el hongo, ¿no? Antes de cortar el velo, y cuando justamente, en realidad como cuando corta el velo, todas las esporas caen y permiten en el fondo ese crecimiento, darle nueva vida a otras esporas o a otro micelio que viene en camino y poder fructificar otra vez. Entonces es una cadena que está siempre en retroalimentación y de alguna forma en crecimiento a partir de su familia o de sus pares. Y eso es una especie como de subsistencia en colaboración. Me parece muy hermoso.
I also think that's really beautiful. And speaking of beautiful, I would like to hear Sebastián's answer.
Una de las cualidades que encuentro más interesantes del reino fungi para plantearlas en nuestros nuevos desafíos y en estos horizontes nuevos, creo que es la dormancia. La dormancia como un estado necesario para contemplar, para esperar el momento adecuado, el momento en el cual se den las condiciones necesarias para crecer. Creo que todos tenemos que aprender a descansar y a esperar. También empezar a notar en nuestro ecosistema alrededor nuestro cómo está funcionando nuestro nicho, cómo se están expresando las energías, y saber tomarnos el tiempo y esperar para poder crecer cuando las condiciones sean adecuadas. Hay momentos en los que uno puede retirarse y descansar y replantearse cosas, pensar en cómo continuar. Creo que el reino fungi es admirable en ese concepto de esperar que la naturaleza te dé las condiciones adecuadas para existir y el mundo te permita crecer.
So I think the characteristic of bringing to the front, or like into being able to see and understand something that had always been there, but that you didn't even know existed, is I think it's a way that humankind is going to start incorporating much more now, like in terms of consciousness as well. Like we haven't seen so many things in the last, I don't know, maybe 500 years or 1,000 years that we're seeing now, and all together in terms of gender and racism and you know, politically speaking, that that I think it's a very strong symbol that this fungi kingdom comes into the knowledge, no, of so many people. And I think that everybody that, well, people that are working around this, like to turn it into a manifestation of existence and to have it like be something supernatural, like to say, okay, plants are green and they have chlorophyll, right? It's like something we really understand, like since we're like 3 or 4 years old. Well, I think this kingdom is probably going to turn into this, like super fast, because of the fact that it talks about the invisible, the invisible becoming visible. And then there's another way of looking at it, like the blind spot, no? Like we all have a blind spot, or many blind spots about ourselves, like unconscious aspects of your personality, or of your way of being, of your way of understanding the world, and something happens suddenly that isn't, it comes to the front again, and it's not blind anymore, and that probably generates like a whole transformation. And I think fungi also does that, like the invisible underground, underneath, and then suddenly, you know, the mushrooms coming up is like the metaphor also of the invisible and the visible. So I think they're great teachers and masters, maybe even.
Decomposition. Okay, here I go. What I admire of fungi kingdom is decomposition. When a living body ceases to be, it is due to an organic inability to transmit energy to the organs. The process begins after the muscles solidify, rigor mortis phenomenon. Body decomposition is a universal phenomenon which plays an integral role in ecosystem energy transformation and nutrient cycling. Fungi decompose organic matter by releasing enzymes to break down the decaying material, after which they absorb the nutrients in the decaying material. In this chemical and organic transmutation phenomenon of bodies by fungi, began my interest in decomposition as a capability to transform our matter as human beings in nutrients for our social, political, and environmental contexts.
So what do you think, Juan? You haven't said anything until now.
But I think what feature I like most about fungi is that maybe what I first learned about the mushrooms is that it doesn't matter how you look. I mean, the forms, the colors, everything that you can find in the mushroom kingdom that appealed the first to me was that's this biodiversity that is very unknown until today. So what I think that should be rescued from the mushroom kingdom for a more sustainable is exactly that organisms or that things that we don't like as much because they don't look well or maybe they don't smell that well. That thing could have in per se a lot of value in itself, and every organism is a whole world, it's a whole universe for us to learn and to identify and to see more things in nature that we could apply in maybe human politics or things like that.
What is your take on this, Nico?
Yo personalmente imagino un jardín muy diverso, lleno de hongos curiosos, en un jardín que también puede ser humano, habíamos hablado, con la humanidad necesaria para crear un planeta nuevo, más conectado, más empático. Creo que yo desde el trabajo de activismo queer estamos usando actualmente los hongos como una bomba para dinamitar las disciplinas, corromper, probar.
Come on, say something in English.
I love the idea to the fungus garden is the pataphysic apparition. It's a magical moment to the museum, into the world, in the pandemic context, you know. I admire to the Fungi Kingdom, to the empathy with the universe.
Thank you everyone for assisting. We hope this is only our first version of the manifesto. We hope our mycelium network keeps growing and multiplying and diversifying, and that in the future we have many more perspectives on how fungi can inspire us for a more sustainable, interconnected, empathic, invisible, non-binary, transdisciplinary, transformative behavior.
Well, thank you for joining us today in this roundtable. Everyone who has watched the video, the live stream, Museo del Hongo invites you all for all parts of the world. If you want to research or to know more about the Fungi Kingdom, don't hesitate in writing to us. We have an email or through our social media, and don't forget to follow us there too. Thank you. Goodbye.
Everybody say love.
We love mushroom.
We love mushrooms.